The National Assembly kicked off its week with an audit of the government, dedicating the first day of a three-day session to ministers overseeing diplomacy, unification, and national security. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi won a landslide victory in a snap general election, with their party securing a two-thirds majority in the lower house. President Lee Jae-myung congratulated the Japanese leader's election win. A local think tank believes the South Korean economy is on a recovery path on the back of a rise in domestic spending and growth in the services sector. Following the National Assembly addresses from both parties last week, this week we see 3 days of questioning of government officials. And today's session especially highlighted diplomacy and politics with a focus on U.S. tariffs. Our political correspondent An Sung-jin starts us off.
The National Assembly this week kicked off 3 days of questioning government officials. The first day on Monday focused on politics, diplomacy, unification, and national security, with ministers from relevant government departments appearing before the National Assembly to answer questions about policy. Monday's session was particularly centered on questions regarding measures on U.S. tariffs. The ruling Democratic Party highlighted its credentials as a competent governing party, emphasizing progress on diplomacy, including the APEC Economic Leaders meeting. Meanwhile, the main opposition People Power Party challenged the administration over high inflation and exchange rates, questioning the effectiveness of the government's so-called pragmatic diplomacy. On the same day during the plenary session, by bipartisan agreement, lawmakers passed a motion that approved the formation of a special committee to discuss measures on the proposed Special Act on Strategic Investment with the U.S., which drafts Korean investment in the United States under a Korea-U.S. Tariff Agreement MOU.
Both negotiating parties made a decision to unite around national interests. I would like to notify the U.S. government that the South Korean National Assembly is discussing the legislation with a strong commitment to swift action while fully adhering to domestic laws.
The committee will consist of 16 members, 8 from the ruling DP, 7 from the main opposition PPP, and 1 from a non-negotiating parliamentary bloc. Lawmakers look to pass the bill by consensus within a month before the committee mandate expires on March 9th. This move comes as South Korea faces continued tariff pressure from the Trump administration over what he calls stalled legislative efforts related to investment in the U.S. With the tightly scheduled questioning, the National Assembly is bracing for an intense round of partisan confrontations. With the June 3rd local elections approaching, the sessions will likely serve as a preview for an intensifying political showdown. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And over the weekend, government officials and ruling party lawmakers called for closer coordination on promoting policies to protect the housing market and to promote trade with the U.S. Our political correspondent Moon Hae-ryun reports.
South Korea's ruling Democratic Party and the government have pledged tighter coordination and faster legislation as they held the first high-level party government policy coordination meeting of 2026. The meeting took place on Sunday at the Prime Minister's official residence in Seoul, bringing together senior officials from the party, the cabinet, and the presidential office to align priorities for President Lee Jae-myung's policy agenda. Democratic Party leader Chung Cheong-rae described 2026 as the starting point of what President Lee has called a great national transformation and leap forward. Key items on the agenda included a special bill to support Korean investment in the United States, which the ruling party says must be handled swiftly, aiming to pass the legislation by early March.
The special bill on investment in the United States must be handled urgently by the National Assembly to protect Korean companies facing uncertainty over the possible reimposition of U.S. tariffs.
Chung said the party plans to move quickly to approve the formation of a special parliamentary committee during Monday's plenary session and push the legislation forward. Another major issue was the planned establishment of a supervisory authority on real estate, aimed at cracking down on illegal practices that distort the housing market and harm ordinary citizens. Prime Minister Kim Min-seok called for a speed battle on legislation, warning that delays to the Special Act on Strategic Investment cooperation with the U.S. are already affecting follow-up measures in tariff negotiations. On real estate, Kim said normalization of the housing market is essential to shifting the economy towards productive investment, adding that the government plans to establish a supervisory authority on real estate. Presidential Chief of Staff Kang Eun-sik also stressed the importance of rapid legislation, urging the National Assembly to speed up the passage of key livelihood-related bills and pledging that the presidential office will also make every effort to move them forward. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Now, over in Japan, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi led the ruling Liberal Democratic Party to a sweeping election victory over the weekend, strengthening our government's mandate to enact legislation and push forward major reforms. Lee Seung-ja has more.
Sanae Takaichi and her ruling Liberal Democratic Party saw a landslide victory in Japan's general election on Sunday, securing a powerful supermajority in the country's lower house of parliament. According to results compiled by public broadcaster NHK, the LDP won 316 of the 465 seats in the House of Representatives in Sunday's vote. That is well above the 233 seats needed for a simple majority and marks the first time the party alone has achieved a two-thirds majority in the lower house. Before the election, the LDP held 198 seats. The latest win represents a gain of 118 seats and pushes the party past the two-thirds threshold of 310 seats, giving it significant legislative power. When combined with the 36 seats held by its coalition partner, the Japan Restoration Party, the ruling bloc now controls 352 seats, or about 75% of the chamber. That level of control ensures the coalition can secure all standing committee chair positions and majorities across committees. The supermajority also gives the ruling camp the ability to repass bills in the lower house, even if they are rejected by the upper house, strengthening the government's hand in pushing through legislation. On the policy front, Takaichi has pledged to suspend the 8% sales tax on food for 2 years to ease the burden of rising prices on households. She has also vowed to revise Japan's security and defense policies by December, aiming to strengthen the country's offensive capabilities, lift restrictions on weapons exports, and move further away from Japan's post-war pacifist stance. In addition, Takaichi has been advocating tougher immigration rules, including stricter requirements for foreign property ownership and a cap on the number of foreign residents. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
And President Lee Jae-myung has conveyed his words of congratulations to Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. In a social media post today, he hoped Japan would continue to prosper under Takaichi's leadership amid her coalition's victory in the lower house election. He also called for their two countries to broaden and deepen cooperation based on a bilateral trust. And the president added that he looks forward to meeting Prime Minister Takaichi in South Korea soon as part of the back-and-forth summit diplomacy. U.S. President Donald Trump says he will host Chinese leader Xi Jinping at the White House late this year. In an interview with MBS News that aired on Sunday, Trump reflected on a recent phone call he had with his Chinese counterpart on trade, Taiwan, Russia's war in Ukraine, and the situation in Iran. Amid various bilateral sticking points, Trump said the U.S. and China are the two most powerful countries in the world and claimed to have a very good relationship. He is also expected to visit Beijing to meet with Xi in April to follow up on their summit talks in South Korea last year. Defense Minister Ang Kyu-baek sat down with his Saudi Arabian counterpart Khalid bin Salman Al Saud in Riyadh on Sunday. And during their meeting, the two countries' state-run defense research agencies signed an MOU to lay the foundation for a mutually beneficial and forward-looking partnership. Minister An invited his Saudi counterpart to South Korea, and after thanking the minister for the invitation, the latter also shared hopes for South Korea's experience and technical expertise to help boost Saudi Arabia's defense capabilities. 2 warrant officers died after their helicopter crashed in Gapeyong-gun County during training on this Monday. According to the military, the attack helicopter went down at around 11 a.m. today, and the cause of the crash remains unclear. The 2 crew members were transported to nearby hospitals but were later declared dead. The Army has halted operations of all AH-1S helicopters following this accident, and a task force has been formed to investigate the incident. Defense Minister Ang Kyu-baek, currently in Saudi Arabia, received a report and has instructed swift follow-up measures. The South Korean economy appears to be on the path to recovery as the domestic consumption rebounds. Now, analysts also say the recent rise in the KOSPI has encouraged more spending, even though some sectors continue to struggle. Kim Do-yeon reports.
South Korea's state-run think tank, the Korea Development Institute, has reaffirmed that the economy is on a recovery path, driven largely by a rebound in domestic consumption and the service sector. In its February Economic Trends report released Monday, the KDI also stated that a moderate increase in production is being maintained. This assessment aligns with the Institute's shift in tone last November when it moved away from diagnosing the economy as sluggish or weak, terms used frequently between May and October of last year, to focusing on improvement. The data backs this optimism. Retail sales in December climbed 1.2% compared to the same period the previous year, continuing an upward trend for the fourth consecutive month. A significant 12.6% jump in passenger vehicle sales helped drive these figures. This also has to do with the recent historic rise in the KOSPI, some analysts say, as the sentiment also goes up.
When the stock market performs well and prices rise, we typically see a wealth effect. As the value of assets held by stock owners increases, we view this as a key factor that stimulates consumption.
Mirroring this consumption, service sector production rose 3.7%, marking 11 straight months of growth. The gains were broad-based with significant increases in wholesale and retail trade, as well as the professional, scientific, and technical sectors. Thanks to this service-led momentum, overall industrial production grew 1.8% in December. However, the recovery is not uniform. The manufacturing sector remains a weak link, contracting by 0.3%. The KDI noted that despite strong demand, semiconductor production was limited by supply constraints, while the auto sector faced headwinds from U.S. tariffs. More concerning is the continued slump in investment. Facility investment plummeted 10.3% in December, the sharpest decline since August 2023. The construction sector also remains in a prolonged downturn, with completed construction projects dropping by nearly 15% in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, while sluggish investment and construction weigh on the outlook, the KDI maintains that improving income conditions from the semiconductor cycle and strong consumer sentiment are supporting the broader economic recovery. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
With the growing attention on robotics, the nation's largest robotics conference brought together the young innovators who will plot the future course of the industry. Events ranged from robot competitions to displays of inventive robots. Kim Jun-ong takes a closer look.
Agile, dog-like robots stride along a slippery, snow-covered course. There's no joystick or human control. The robots rely on GPS-based autonomous systems to read their surroundings and decide where to go next, while trying to avoid their rivals and unprogrammed obstacles. A few steps away, the snow becomes a testing ground for disaster response. This drone uses cameras and sensors to detect the location of people stranded in the snow, climbs up steep slopes, and delivers essential survival supplies. Behind every robot are young engineers, students, and researchers. Held annually in Gangwon Province, the Korea Robotics Society annual conference marks its 21st year as the nation's largest robotics gathering. Fueled by AI-driven advances and heavy investment in humanoid robots by global tech giants, this year's conference has drawn around 2,000 aspiring engineers.
We previously focused on building conventional drones and aircraft, but with autonomous navigation and object recognition at core, this competition has expanded our research scope.
The spotlight this year was on artificial intelligence and humanoid robots. Developed by an undergraduate student, this robot turns an ordinary portrait into a caricature.
After I have exaggerated face, I will extract all the lines from the face, like the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, and then I will transmit all the data into the robot.
Using patterns it learned in advance, the AI extracts facial features and sends them to a robot that draws a slightly goofy yet charming caricature. Student-built robots are only one piece of a much larger research landscape. Across the venue, experimental systems and humanoid robots show what the future of robotics might look like.
The key to robotics lies in balancing softness and strength, and I believe Korea is already competitive at a global level. Just as important as building robots are strong component supply chains and commercialization capabilities. But with a solid manufacturing base, I am convinced of Korea's strong growth potential.
With humanoid robots and AI reshaping the industry, young dreamers are taking their first steps toward the next era of robotics. Kim Junong, Arirang News.
Ticketing details for BTS's comeback live show Arirang next month were announced today through the global fan communication platform Weverse. So according to the group's agency, free tickets for the general public will be available for reservation on February 23rd at 8 p.m. via Knoll Ticket. A global lucky draw will also be held for those who purchase the group's new album titled Arirang, which will be released on March 20th. Earlier, producer DJ Diplo revealed that he had taken part in this album. Now, moving forward on March 21st, BTS will put on stage a comeback concert at Gwanghwamun Square, where some 260,000 people are expected to gather. The police will deploy special units to the site and step up counter-terrorism measures. A nearly 10,000-year-old Korean poetic tradition took center stage on a global digital platform this weekend. World Sijo Poetry Day, established to honor the legacy of the Goryeo-era master Utak, celebrated its second anniversary with AI-generated melodies to recitations in over 10 different languages. Jung Hae-rim has more.
The Sejong Cultural Society successfully hosted the second annual World Sijo Poetry Day celebration on February 7th. Broadcast live via YouTube and Facebook, the event showcased Sijo not just as a Korean relic, but as a living, breathing international art form. The event brought together poets and artists from across continents, highlighting the globalization of Sijo. For the opening, Sijo from two Korean masters, Hwangjini Im Jung-hwan and Sijo Chang poetry accompanied by bamboo flute and drum by Yang Sa-eun were performed. The following program featured Sijo written and recited in an array of native tongues. Beyond Korean and English, poets shared works in Hindi, Russian, Vietnamese, German, Isikosa, Portuguese, French, Lingala, and Spanish. These poets did more than translate. They adapted the 3-line, 45-syllable spirit of Sijo into the unique rhythms of their own languages. One of the highlights of the events was interviews with 95-year-old Allegra Silberstein and 91-year-old Marilyn D'Augustin, both of whom discovered a passion for Sijo late in life, proving that artistic growth has no expiration date.
And what's also fascinating about that is that, when you have to think about syllables, carving your language in a certain way, that's very beautiful.
This year's celebration also looked firmly toward the future. AI-generated Sijo songs, Still American and Letter Never Sent, introduced new musical interpretations. Students from Chicago's Taft High School also presented visual artwork, which offered fresh perspectives inspired by the poetry. With its 2026 celebration now concluded, organizers say the event reaffirmed that this form of poetry is not only surviving but continuing to adapt and inspire on the global stage. Jung Hae-rim, Arirang News.
Hello and welcome. I am your AI sports correspondent, Arirang. This section features AI-generated content and scripts, bringing you the latest news from the Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026. Here are our top stories. A 37-year-old veteran on Sunday shattered expectations to claim South Korea's first medal of the 2026 Winter Games. Snowboarder Kim Sang-kyum won a silver medal in the men's parallel giant slalom at Livingno Snow Park. Kim toppled world number 1 Roland Fischler in the quarterfinals before finishing 0.19 seconds behind the gold in the final. This podium finish marks the 400th total Olympic medal for South Korea since 1948. Kim knelt in a deep bow on the podium after securing the nation's second ever Olympic medal on snow. High school sensation Yoo Seung-in on Monday ignited medal hopes in her Olympic debut. The teenage prodigy stormed into the women's snowboard big air finals by finishing in 4th place in qualifying. Yoo showed her technical precision, landing a 1,260 mute to lock in a total of 166.50 points. Yoo now enters the Tuesday morning final looking to push for a medal. South Korea's short track powerhouses began their quest for glory on Tuesday. After a podium miss 4 years ago, the team is ready to reclaim the throne in the mixed relay. 3-time Olympic champion Choi Min-jung leads the charge as the first skater in Tuesday's 2,000-meter relay. Her explosive start is key to avoiding the mid-pack chaos that often triggers upsets. Choi is joined by rising star Kim Gi-lee and veterans Hwang Dae-hun and Im Jong-won. Following a dominant World Tour win in Poland, the squad is all in to secure the best lane for the final. With 26 historic golds already in the books, Korea looks to this race to set the golden tone for the Milano Cortina Games. Team USA has defended its Olympic figure skating team title, narrowly defeating Japan in a thrilling Milan final. The victory was sealed by superstar Ilya Malinin, who stunned the crowd with a daring backflip. As the final skater, Malinin landed 5 quadruple jumps to secure a victory over Japan. Though not flawless, he electrified the arena with a mid-program backflip, a move only recently legalized after a 50-year Olympic ban. Supported by veterans Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, the U.S. becomes the first nation to successfully defend the team crown. Host Italy took a historic bronze, while Malinin now heads into the individual events as the heavy favorite for gold. Before we head out, let's look ahead. Appearing now on your screen are the current medal standings and the upcoming schedule for the Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026.
As mild westerly winds are pushing in, the freezing cold has eased off around the country. Seoul's daytime high rose to around 5 degrees Celsius today, slightly above the seasonal average. Tomorrow morning will also be milder, with temperature rising to around 0 degrees, so no major cold snaps are expected for the time being. Meanwhile, dry and chilly air continues to be dominate, making conditions extremely dry. Along the East Coast, gusty winds of about 15 meters per second are expected, so even a small spark could quickly turn into a large fire. Please be extra careful. Tomorrow morning, Chuncheon will start off at -6 degrees, Jeju at 5 degrees. Daily highs will rise to around 4 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, 9 degrees in Gyeongju and Busan. Tomorrow morning, rain or snow is forecast in most parts of the country, except the eastern parts of Gangwon-do province, and it will continue through Wednesday morning. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.